She believes these substances hold the power to reveal our inherent divinity, awaken authenticity, and address the trauma embedded within our subconscious. Hi, Leslie.
Hi. Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming and doing this for us. So Leslie has been on my podcast before a couple of times, and it's always so informative. So I just have a few questions, and then we'll open it up if anyone has anything to add. So Leslie, how does somatic integration help individuals navigate the emotions and sensations experienced during plant and earth medicine work?
Great question. So when we think about somatics in particular, we're thinking about addressing the whole self, the whole organism. Is sort of what soma means. And I really look at it as mind, body, soul, spirit. So with somatic integration, that can really help us find ways to anchor into ourselves when the emotions and sensations of psychedelic or earth medicine maybe make us feel a bit unanchored or a bit challenged. And even in situations where it's not a challenging psychedelic experience, somatics can really help us to tap into the sensations and understand what they're trying to show us, because our sensations are really the beginning language of our body. They tell about 80% of the story, but our words, the meanings that we make, 20% of the story, get all of the credit, right? So in somatic psychedelic work, which is what I do with people, and somatic integration, we're really looking into the body. We're looking into the sensations, even the different images that might come up when we really look at sensations to help us move forward. And in the case of my work, do a lot of deep inner healing.
So what are some practical techniques or exercises for promoting somatic integration during and after plant and earth medicine sessions?
Right. So practical techniques and exercises are super important and essential. And this is a lot of what I do with folks. I love breath work. I think that that's really important for grounding specifically. And that can be something that's structured, even like holotropic breath work, which was actually created by Stanislav Grof, who was one of the initial researchers of psychedelic medicine way back in the 50s and 60s. Or it can be just tapping into and noticing your breath, slowing down your breath. Other practices that I really love are grounding. And the one I use, I think, most with people is sounding. So a sounding technique is anytime where we're using our voice to stimulate the vagus nerve, which is an essential part of our nervous system. And it runs from somewhere in our head down through our throat and actually ends in our cervical area. And when we do things like hum or sing or sigh with an exhale, like that can help to stimulate that nerve and help to further relax us. So those are some grounding somatic practices that I find really helpful. But other things like just learning to listen to what it is that your body wants. Sometimes if you take a little too much of a microdose, your body might really want to move. So going out for a walk or dancing or shaking can be other really amazing techniques that can promote that somatic integration and really help us tap into the body. Because what psychedelics do really well is help to peel off the layers of our subconscious. And a lot of times we think of that as just a mind-based place. But with somatic psychedelics and somatic psychedelic integration, what we're doing is helping our mind and body communicate a little bit better.
I like that. That's such a simple way to do it as well. So what role do mindfulness and body awareness play in facilitating the movement through feelings and sensations that arise from plant and earth medicine use?
I think those are pretty essential aspects of it, and also things that can be pretty tricky for folks who've been disconnected, especially, my own story, like you mentioned before when you introduced me so beautifully. I was deeply disconnected for most of my life. And so I lived very much in my head, very much in my masculine energy, very much in my outward, what can I do, succeed, and achieve. And so the way I have seen plant and earth medicines aid mindfulness and body awareness really just helps to elevate those two aspects of ourselves into being these like really key parts of integrating plant medicine experiences. It's kind of like a weird circle, right? Like the plant medicine makes us more mindful and more into our body, and becoming more into our body and more mindfulness elevates the experience of our plant medicine use. So I think that they're pretty essential. And again, I think that intentionally working with anything from cannabis to mushrooms can really help us become more present, slow down, and become more focused, which in turn elevates our ability to be mindful and to understand the different sensations coming forward through our bodies.
I like that. So can you discuss the potential benefits of integrating somatic practices such as yoga or body movement? I know you touched on that before, but more like into the post-experience integration process and how that works with medicine.
Sure. So integration is obviously, I think, the most important part about working with these substances. And it's one that gets sometimes the least amount of like chat, right? Like the least amount of, what's the word? Like we're not talking about it very much. We're talking about prepping and the actual ceremony. And so integrating somatic practices, be it yoga, be it body movement, breath work, meditating, like a walking meditation, hiking in nature, using sound, using self-pleasure, all of these in the post-experience integration can help us really start to make sense of the messages that might have come forward for us during our ceremony or during our microdosing practice. I have seen in my own life messages coming forward from mushrooms that tell me, I need to take better care of my body. I need to have more balance between my work and my actual like nourishing of this human vessel. And so my post experience integration is like going to the gym, right? And so I think that that's another really good example of how our body really does want to lead the way. That was something that I felt very much in my body, the sensations in my body that were painful or stagnant or inflamed became pretty damn clear during microdosing. And I'm like, okay, this is what it's trying to show me. So that's one way. I think another potential benefit, sort of like I've said before, is that as somebody who has lived so much in her head, and something that I find very common in women specifically is us living in our heads, that hamster wheel, the thought track that won't stop. If you've had anxiety or depression like I've had, PTSD like I've had, the ability to live here is what we're used to, and also what's often pretty glorified by society. And so when we start to really integrate the body into this experience and learn to listen to the language of our body, practices, be it yoga or walking or breath work or taking like just time to sit and breathe, can be really important to help connect us back to our home, which is ourselves here.
Does anyone have any other questions?
I do. I have a few questions. Hi, I'm Jen. Thank you for doing
Hi.
this.
Sure.
Really appreciate it. A couple things. So you mentioned just a few minutes ago about the like when you do microdose, you're noticing like those areas of your body that are inflamed are even more exponentially, like you feel them even more.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's like healing that's occurring? Do you think like, because my husband will say that to me, he's like, oh, I took a gummy, but it makes me feel like I have all my aches and pains are even worse when I do it. Like, I feel like for just a little bit of time, it hurts even worse. And like the areas where I know I have arthritis and stuff are like, do you think it's healing that's occurring during that? Or do you think that, what do you think the connection is there?
I actually,
mind body connection, a little bit deeper of body connection.
Could be both things, right? I think that the second part, I think, is probably for sure, like becoming aware of what your body is trying to tell you seems to be something that happens a little bit easier when we're sitting with medicine. And if it's a little bit worse, before it gets better, or if it's heightened, I think that that's where it shows us things that we can work on. So for me, it was like, I was more aware of the inflammation, and then I would be like, oh shit, well, this means I need to do this and this and this. Probably stop eating so much gluten, probably stop eating so much sugar. And those were ideas and kind of like ahas that came afterwards. And I really think that the medicine wants us to be in balance, and it will show us where we're out of balance if we can listen. But I did have a client who I worked with early on in my practice, and their intention was to connect with their body. They're non-binary. And in our work together, they had some pretty extreme body issues come up with pain and things like that. So sometimes it can also lead us to places trauma is stored in the body. And so that's one way that the work I do with clients, where I'll have them microdose and then come to session, and we'll kind of go into a meditation and look for the sensations and what they're telling us. Oftentimes it'll be like, oh, my legs feel weird, I kind of want to run. I'm like, what are you running from? And it's something that has been a trauma. So it's interesting, right? So I think that healing could be what it's showing us. And I think that it's always an invitation for more curiosity on our part. But when we look at psilocybin specifically, there are some recent studies that are showing that it is anti-inflammatory on its own. So I would say, if your husband's having experiences with, I'm guessing, cannabis gummies, where it's making things a little bit more inflamed beforehand, yeah, that could be an invitation to look more closely at what's happening.
Right.
And I can't really speak, obviously, to his experience, but I do think that everything that comes up for us in these practices are ways to lead us to healing. But I'm not sure if, like, that exact moment, that awareness of the pain or that awareness of the inflammation is like healing right then. I think it's showing us a path forward to help us move towards healing.
Yeah, I noticed that as well with both cannabis and psilocybin. And what I've started like integrating things like those nerve sheath mats that you lay on, like the acupressure mats, and like doing more of the massage roller when I'm feeling, and then I can really feel it. Like, when I lay on the acupressure mat after I've like medicated, and I feel it and it's starting to kick in for like 20 good minutes, it's like I can really feel my whole body is starting to heal.
That's amazing.
And then my back feels better. But if I don't do that and I just medicate, then I do feel like, oh, because then when you feel the relief, then the pain, the snapback, when it starts to wear off, can feel more intense as well.
Right.
So there's that part of it too.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, I got an acupuncture mat.
Yeah.
I'll try that. And I got the shiatsu chair roller. I'm gonna try that too.
Yeah.
Thanks for the ideas.
So the other thing I wanted to say, was funny that you mentioned about the hum and how you can, like, when you do your somatic work, there's actually in aesthetics when we're doing, and that just like gave me a light bulb moment about how our mind, body, and muscles are so connected. When we're doing aesthetics, if I ultrasound someone and I'm looking for where filler is to see where I can put more filler, I have them hum and the muscles light up. Like, it's so cool. You can see it reverberate right through your body. So it's really cool when you say that. It really does work. Really interesting.
What's also interesting about humming, so our vagina, vulva, and cervix, and our jaw and throat, physiologically, when you look at both of those areas, the pelvic floor and the throat, they look very similar. And so when we're humming as well, it can help to like soften and relax those places in our bodies as well. And I've seen stuff where it's like lit up, like what you're saying. But also often, like, if you have tightness here, you'll have tightness in your pelvic floor. And women most often have tightness in their jaws because we keep our mouths shut when we should be talking about what we really want to talk about.
Yes, exactly. I love that. I wish our acupuncturist was here, because she would really be interested in hearing that, because she talks about that, like the connection too.
For sure.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about, can you talk a little bit more about the breath work from the 50s? What was it called?
Holotropic breath work. So I'm sorry.
What is that? What is the difference?
So holotropic breath work was created, like I said, by Stanislav Grof after they outlawed psychedelic research. And basically, and I've only done it once, it is very intense. And I'm not extremely well versed in all of the ins and outs, but what the gist of it is, it's in and out through the mouth, like pretty fast. And it kind of induces your own psychedelic state by helping activate the DMT that's naturally in your body. So you will have like trippiness happen. It's very intense. Like I felt it to be incredibly uncomfortable. But you could see it can create feelings of euphoria. It can create like you seeing visuals. I really felt a ton of sensation in my body between like chills all up and down. Chills is a bad way to explain it because chills sounds like it's not that big a deal. It was like pins and needles all up and down, cramping of the hands, which is called tetanus or tinnitus, not tinnitus. And right, so the reason they created it is because they wanted to keep exploring ways that we could naturally heal. Since psychedelic medicine, all of these big researchers couldn't do their research anymore after they made this illegal, I believe in 62. He created this breathwork technique that you can go and you can, if you search holotropic breathwork, you might be able to find someone locally who's doing that. It's really big in bigger cities. And there's a holotropic breathwork, I believe, online group, because I did it online, and you can join for free, like your first class, and kind of join a Zoom session. It's like an hour and a half long, very trippy.
So is that like related to the, I've heard Wim Hof talk about his breath work and it sort of induces that. And then I've heard there's a connection between like the CIA used to do this type of work with their investigators, like in the 50s and 60s to help them through PTSD and stuff. So it's just super interesting that you're saying that.
Yeah, I don't know much about the CIA's work, but Wim Hof's is a different technique with a similar. So Wim Hof's is different because of a couple of reasons. One, it's nowhere near as long as holotropic breathwork sessions usually are. Wim Hof also has holds. So Wim Hof is like an in, out for like 30 or 33 breaths. At the end, you hold empty for as long as a minute or more, and then you breathe back in. I love Wim Hof, do that all the time when we cold plunge. But the way that Wim Hof's works is it was very much created to help you release inflammation from the body. And because he's like a world record holder on all these wild things, to really push your body into this place of like higher endurance or higher ability to withstand things like cold. But I do love Wim Hof. I don't think it doesn't, from what I have experienced personally, drop like the DMT into yourself like the holotropic breathwork does. But again, I think it's because Wim Hof sessions are usually 10 to 30 minutes and holotropic is like a 60 to 90 minute.
Oh, wow. Oh yeah, that's much longer then.
Yeah.
Awesome. So if I have patients, I've had patients approach me and they want to microdose, but they want to do it in more of a controlled setting or with a practitioner. That's something that you do, and I can refer patients to you, or
100%. Yeah. So I work virtually with patients who microdose on their own and either meet one-on-one, or I have a group as well, an online group called The Sanctuary, where you can get some guidance to help you understand and feel more confident working with psilocybin. But yes, that's exactly what I do.
I'm taking your information from Diana so I can give it to patients. That's awesome.
And she also, she has a lot of different things. She has a free microdosing guide that you can download.
Please,
Did you have
okay.
a question, Mackenzie?
I did. I was wondering, when you started doing this and you were at a point in your life when you were living more in your head, and it was harder to drink this. I don't really know how to describe it, but like, just the uncertainty. How did you like start realizing what your body needed in order to feel more fulfilled in life?
Bless, baby. So I really did go the Western medical route for a while. I'd been in therapy. I had a psychiatrist. I had tried anti-anxiety medications, antidepressants, and I had a spiritual awakening in 2019 where I started to meditate first. But when I was meditating, even then, like it was really hard for me to stop the monkey mind and like the hamster wheel of thoughts. So I started looking into just embodiment practices and sensual movement. And I hated the idea of like sensual dance. Now I do it all the time, but I really was so averse to it in the beginning. But I really just started to explore things that made me feel good because I was, and this is not part of the part that Diana said, but I was diagnosed with herpes at 18. And I had a lot of shame around that. So I very much disconnected from my body as well because of just how unsafe it felt there. And so when I started to have my spiritual awakening, one practice I started is sensual living. And that doesn't mean you're just like self-pleasuring and having sex all the time. It was how can in each and every moment I try to feel good in my body. So I would pay attention to what I was eating. I would pay attention to like what it tasted like. I would pay attention to just putting lotion on my skin and taking baths versus showers. Like I took a bath instead of a shower for like a whole year straight. So that's just some of the ways that I started to kind of sink into it. But it can be really scary, it can be really uncomfortable when we feel really at home in our mind and not at home in our body. So I really commend you for asking the question. And if you have a follow-up or if you ever want to chat, you can book a little call with me and we can talk more. But did that answer your question?
Yeah. I would definitely like to talk more about it when I do have more questions, because I'm sure more questions will come up eventually.
She was talking to me about some things that she found in a store recently, so, and I think this is relevant to bring up. You do point out how to purchase it or become
Safely.
safely, where
Good
to
product.
buy it, not,
Yeah.
because, she recently found some chocolates at a store, and I'm trying to figure out how.
It's
that's legal.
it's a certain kind. So those are most likely Amanita.
Yeah.
And that's a slightly different, right? They just say magic mushrooms, but Amanita is not, for some reason, it's not
Illegal yet.
I guess. I don't know. It's a real weird, like gray area. But yeah, in my, sorry?
That one?
She asked if it was a different experience. I think it was. I mean, for me, it was. It's definitely, it's a, personal situation. And it also depends on the product. I've had 2 different experiences with it, so.
Yeah. And I think for microdosing, especially beginners, working with pure source material, like pure mushrooms, is pretty important. And it's dried and ground up. You can do it in a capsule. You can put it in your tea. But a lot of companies out there do have things like gummies, or they'll have like a mixture of other mushrooms, maybe even cacao, even in a capsule. And I like folks to at least explore pure psilocybin cubensis if they can, and if they get access to it. And yes, my guide has information on safe sourcing. And I also have an Instagram page called Cyclical Microdosing Method. And if y'all want to check that out, everyone I follow is a vetted source.
Nice.
That's how I'll say that.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other questions?
How do people get in touch with you?
So I can get, Diana has my info, but Instagram at Leslie Draffin, probably the best place, or hello@lesliedraffin.com. Again, like I mentioned, or Diana mentions, I do have a free beginner's microdosing guide. I'm releasing in a few weeks a cyclical microdosing mini course because I created a method to microdose around your cycle that I have found to be very beneficial for people with periods who have PMS, PMDD, mood swings, and anyone who really just wants to deepen their feminine healing because of the way that psilocybin impacts those of us who menstruate or women in general. I have found some really deep inner healing by changing up the way that you work with it.
Perfect. Very nice. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your information with us. It's been really
Thank
cool
you for
listening.
having me. Thanks for having me, guys. And again, if you have any questions, just let me know. Diana, thanks, babe.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right. All right, Dr. Caplan tried to get in already. I told him to give us a few minutes. I have to pee really quick before he comes on.
If he pops on, I'll just say hey.
Why don't you?
Would you guys like a
a
drink?
There we have
Cookies?
these CBD,
There's water, there's filter water.
Yeah, there's
I
CBD
got
distillate
seltzer.
that you can add to drinks that help.
You just put it in
like
like
this,
this,
the loud
water
thing.
soluble. You don't, it doesn't taste like anything. It's flavorless. It's just a CBD isolate. Try it.
Yeah. And then you can mix whatever. There's fizzy drinks, there's sodas right over here on this side, over here.
work?
Thank you. Dead. He can't stand still. I'm not standing still. I'm just like, oh, he's there today.
But I was just telling that, and I was in there, I said,
But when,
I could never go back to that place with standstill there.
no, when Brendan's there, it's not as bad.
No.
He had us like, we were cleaning the outside of the doors today. Just doing like random stuff.
These cookies are for girls. You have cookies?
Yeah, take them. Diana made them.
Oh, okay, I know these cookies.
Yeah. There's nothing in them, but they are very good. They're so
Diana.
good.
I was expecting something in them if Diana made them.
Come on, Diana. Sorry, I'm leaving my line. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Good.
How are you?
Good.
Good to see
Um,
everybody.
Elise said that you guys are fully sold out for.
Yeah, we are.
That's amazing.
You have to enter to win a raffle. We have 3 prizes, and I'm gonna bring one of them over because one
Yeah,
of the
there's
bags.
sample bags up here
Yeah, we
too.
have these gift bags. Bridget, some shoes. These have dogs on them, but you can give them to your cat.
Okay.
They're safe.
There should be salmon flavor, I think, if your cat would like that. They will give
Did
you
you put some stuff in your drink?
I did, I'm stirring.
Make sure you take some of these gift bags.
This stuff is phenomenal. Diana uses the,
Yeah.
Um,
I've actually.
I think I have one. Tina, try this. Tina, this works so good.
Taken the gummies.
Yeah.
Just because.
But I wanted to buy it.
These are the ones that she got you. I had some PhD ones. Angie got me.
You actually saw it, right?
Not as much.
I haven't seen her.
Just,
Thank you so much.
since they shifted to recreation, she hasn't been like enthused.
Yeah. It's probably a different kind of like clientele,
Yeah.
you know?
You want one?
So this is, I have 3
I
grand
know, I'm a
prizes.
sucker for these cookies.
I made them for you. This is one, I have 3 great prizes. I mean, there's each of them probably win. Anyway, but this is, the author of this book is about to be on here in a few minutes.
Oh.
And this is one of the bags. So you have to enter when,
Where
and
is
I
it?
already have your email.
On the
Over
front.
here.
You know, freely.
Yeah.
These are adorable little stickers, Diana. I love these.
I put
The
it
little
on my phone.
purple ones. They're really cute.
Over here.
Just don't worry.
Oh, that's fine.
Bags with
What's the cream?
The spray.
Spray, yeah. You can. It'll, yeah, if you're like your knees hurt you and stuff, did you spray it on them?
right on the back.
Well. What a fucking love Tina.
Which is who I want to work with.
Hi, Tina.
Let's call it.
Hi, nice to meet you.
He looks too young.
I don't know.
He's 12, isn't he?
Where's the camera?
Look, I'm black.
He knows more about this than I can even.
Sorry, we're looking at how fat we are.
Well, then I can take my shirt off and show you how fat I am. It's like, my mother's gonna start giving me better. 13. Yes.
This is in Los Angeles.
This ain't Texas.
They're not going back.
He thought it was done.
I should get my over there.
Oh, I didn't, he's not on yet. Well, we got Mikey and Tommy now, they'll sit in chairs.
I'll sit in chairs.
Yeah.
She's on a date. She's on a date.
Are your kids that bad?
Yeah, right.
Kid?
So, this is one of the bags that Grab has this shirt from local
Our
artist.
gummies are the really good
Happy
gummies, so if you ever ingest too much.
Your giveaway?
Yeah, but I'm picking this up because it's about to talk to even.
Savon Wellness, really good company, really.
Oh, we
clean,
have some of the
super
gummy
dirty.
samples.
Where's
Do you still want the Sal sample?
Yeah,
From her husband?
no, you buy it online. She's an.
No, you can buy this one here. I mean, you can buy these, is what I'm saying. I have a thing where you just
Yeah.
swipe it, the stripe thing.
Okay. Here's.
This is the pop-up. I mean, if you buy them online, it's gonna be more because this is the 20%.
Where's the little baby gummies?
Over here.
Oh, they're
Baby
over there.
gummies. The little individual
Baby
ones.
gummies, get the sample of the, oh, so you can take.
I also
samples.
got some dolphin, I want not the sample.
This is the
but
try me.
I wanna see your stuff.
Come look real quick.
Trying to get my phone, but the wallet isn't coming with it.
I have no PhD.
Micro.
Yeah, you're one of.
Two is enough for me. I go
Two.
five. Sometimes I'm all right with five,
Is there two?
and sometimes five make me loopy.
That's how my sister is.
So, yeah, I'm a micro user.
People are like, they don't exist. I'm like, no, they surely do.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do.
My sister is one of them. She can hold on. All right, let's make sure. I'm gonna wait until the time is right. Okay, calm down. I said this, oh, 6:15.
Yeah, I went and 5 CBD, it's, what is it, 5%? It's 5% CBD, no, it's 5% THC,
Uh-huh.
50% CBD.
Oh, yeah.
I took one. 45 minutes later, my heart was racing, I broke out in a sweat.
Really?
Yeah, and I wonder who would have thought 5 milligrams.
What
would have
kind
sent
of
me through the roof.
CBD was it? Where'd you get it?
It's called Manna.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
never heard
it's
of
a, it's
it.
a company, I ordered it online.
Uh-huh.
I ordered the gel caps. And they had one that was called like rest, so it would just make you sleep, then there was one that was sleep. So the sleep was 50 milligrams for 5. And then the rest was, I think, 25 milligrams for 5.
That's
So
weird.
I called the company, so I bought the chocolates. Oh, I
It's
could
like
taste,
spelled out 5.
yeah, 5, FIVE. It's just called 5.
That's weird.
And it really great company because I called them when I called them and because I ordered, thought it was gonna be great. I ordered all this shit on auto shipment to get it every month. And when I started experiencing, but the gel caps are great. I love the gel.
Are
caps.
they?
I didn't have- but the
Oh,
gummies-
okay.
Now I take the gummies and I cut them in quarters. But what they did when I called her and said cancel my auto shipment, they made me really weird. They refunded my whole entire order of $168.
Wow.
That's a good, and I didn't even ask for that. I just said, cancel my order, and I explained to her why I was canceling, you know, and she said, I'm gonna tell our chemist. And I'm gonna let everybody know, and I'm gonna credit you the whole entire order, and she did. I was like, I didn't ask for that.
That's wow.
Everything.
And that was just CBD?
Well, no, it had 5% THC.
Oh, okay.
It was more CBD, because that's what I like, more CBD.
Oh, you know what it could have been though? Because here's what.
What she said, so you got it online, right?
Lost another 10 pounds.
I didn't really foresee that, but this is Delta. It's weird with those.
You just said that.
Yeah.
So it's like a long time. No. Filled you up. So
So what makes you feel hungry is there's brain capital. I can't remember what it's called.
But essentially what it does is the medicine, turns that off.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Commercial.
So like it may go on for like a couple minutes, but it's like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I got like the HHC, it also controls blood sugar.
That Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10.
And then that's also a part of it. It's the blood sugar.
I don't like that. I don't like
Which, yeah, but I don't really have any side effects, like we don't really know. Like I did. Yeah. They're not showing. Oh, God, you're. What I did before I started, I wanted to make a B12, so I'm a nutritionist. So like, it's like. So like I did like a lot, so like my. Yeah. Well, yeah, that I was my doctor. I was like, I'm gonna
There's a supplement over there that they're dropping into.
Yeah, you can see droplets in there.
My husband's grandmother, so not my father. She did the same thing. She was on like a prescription and it made her feel weird.
The strawberry's not very creamy.
It's just regular CBD. She's on speakers already. Yeah, so you just have to be like super careful, unfortunately. It's like a lot of, it's all on you really, but that's how you do all kinds of healthcare, these days, you just have to be your own advocate. Unfortunately.
Microdose with everything.
Yeah.
I learned the hard way.
Start slow and go low, start low and go slow.
Milligrams,
That's what it
50
is.
milligrams, 60 milligram, and then I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I got some 60 milligram at home that I'm cutting.
Wow.
Microdosing, so it's gonna last me forever.
Do you use, you don't really use cannabis, do you?
Here and there, but not regularly. I am curious about microdosing now, so I'd love to talk to your friend more about it.
I love that you can like call her and she can walk you through it. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, she's, that's becoming more of a thing now.
Have you had
Yeah.
a session with her, like?
No, I mean, I downloaded her guide and I read it. I listen to her podcast sometimes.
Is it informative, the
Yeah.
guide, the download?
Oh, yeah, I'll send it to you.
But yeah, my thinking is kind of along the lines of what she's saying, right? Like, I wanna make sure I'm doing something that's
Yeah.
kind of
You would like her podcast, actually.
verified.
I mean, I don't know if you're into them yet, but you would like it. It's called The Light Within.
Oh, you did send it to me already.
I did. Let's see it. Let me make sure I'm saying that right. I'm gonna send it to you. Yeah, The Light Within. She used to be a news anchor in Texas. and she- Here's a lead.
Not right away, but are we gonna be disruptive if they leave in the middle of this show?
I mean, we're recording this, so. Don't be too disruptive, just joking. I don't even know what to do with it. They are gonna have to figure it out, 'cause I don't know how to edit video. I'm not good with any of that. Anyway, this is the doctor that's with me. Good at his news, sorry. You're sold out. How many people are gonna be here?
Yeah, of course.
9. Yeah, she's sold one extra than one.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's really good. I couldn't get 9 people to come here and they all, I mean, even though they said, interested on Eventbrite.
It's consistency, like, we've been doing them for a while now, so
Well, that's
helps.
true, yeah, because we
Like,
went
the
to what,
name's been out there,
like the first or something.
then word of mouth kind of gets
Yeah.
out there. But I also have a pretty large following from other things that
Yeah.
I've done on my Eventbrite already, so like those people are seeing it,
Yeah.
they're curious, you know.
Yeah, you do have a lot of followers on the Eventbrite. I'm gonna be really disruptive. So you were really disruptive. Well, let me know how the Nutella cookies are, because I've never made those before.
Nutella cookies.
Brown.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't try those.
Like the sprinkles are my favorite.
I just stuck to the ones that I knew that You did awesome.
What are
The
they?
cream cheese ones,
Mhm.
No, these.
those are
What
cream cheese,
Are they cream cheese?
yeah.
You know what I wanna do? I wanna get lemon curd and like scoop
It
lemon
tastes
curd.
buttery.
on it.
It tastes like they got butter in it.
Yeah, they do.
But
Wait, I need to pick the right one.
Afraid, right?
No.
I don't know. Probably not.
They're definitely not dairy free, no, they got cream cheese, no.
I did try to make dairy-free cookies, but they were not good. I mean, they were okay, but JR was like, no, these are, so I make these oatmeal cookies that people like are obsessed with, and I tried to make them without butter. It was a
Just
completely
get
different
vegan, just
cookie.
get vegan butter
Like,
next time.
yeah, okay, I'll try that. I do have peanut butter.
Like instead?
No, I haven't tried that. Don't you have to melt that? Like, sometimes you can't
Sometimes
have.
peanut butter and maple syrup will work in oatmeal cookies too, as a kind of a greasy.
Good idea.
I've done a few vegan.
I am
oatmeal
trying to get like more dairy free. Because, I don't know, eggs are just not working for me right now. Though I did get some farm fresh eggs before we left for me, and I used those on a whole bunch of cookies, and it's not, they taste, you can tell the
You
difference.
definitely can tell the difference.
Is that
between
they
fresh
last for up to
They
75
do,
days.
not even in the fridge.
Yep.
Oh,
As long as you don't wash them.
Right.
well, I didn't wash them. I washed them before I used them.
Yeah.
I was obsessed. I was like, I need to go back there. It's like a house on the side of the road. They have a little.
Oh,
Andy's? Like the person who lives there.
Oh, okay, it wasn't even, because there's a house on the side of the road, it's like,
Yeah,
Andy's
but
corner, so it's like-
I do that, like,
Like,
it's just like a person's house and they have like two cartons sitting there and they're like $3 for the duck eggs. I had duck and chicken eggs, and I was like, I've never had duck eggs before, but I didn't get them, so I was like, I don't know what to do with the
they're
duck
just
egg.
bigger, they're like
Yes, mom.
2 eggs in one. Mommy, here,
I
mommy.
told JR to like threaten his employees to come here, like bribe them. I can't even get a hold of
I
half
tried
of
to
them.
get Angie to come, but she had stuff going on already today. No, it's not working, but I think she had her aunt passed away, so.
How is your husband today? Crazy?
Yeah, he's crazy. I was like, you don't know what I'm sure.
Hello. But she was
You wanna
talking
talk
about
about
her
crazy.
niece, like.
I've been running around all day.
Feeling
Just.
Dealing with the feelings, yeah.
There's a lot of feelings, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Usually.
Mm.
I panicked big too, because I was like, what if, and many people said they were gonna come show up. And so,
Panic big?
you know, Italian, it's like built in my blood. Like, I was like, what is with you? Like, I do it with pasta every time.
I was like, I'm surprised there's not like a cheese board somewhere.
It almost was, she was like, should we get?
I thought you
realized
realized
like,
it's worth it.
maybe,
Like,
no.
it's like really
I
big.
want to try that new
You know,
place
it's
that's
like-
over by Bagel Works.
He doesn't want to admit it.
I don't know. It's like right next to Bagel Works.
I need new food places.
Oh,
around here.
What's her name? Jen.
That's me.
No. The charcuterie place next to Bagel Works.
Dana,
Dana.
words by Dana.
Towards by Bagel.
Is that really like a skill though? Because I saw that somebody had a.
Very
cook-
tough.
tried to do it.
That's extremely.
I don't care. It's
Like
just about
$15
Okay.
sandwich for
Oh,
half a
geez.
sandwich. Yeah, it's a lot, very
a
expensive.
small.
She wasn't that expensive when she
Like the
opened
clam
up.
shell.
I got a
the
charcuterie board.
Containers, a small one is like $40.
Yeah. She wasn't that expensive before. Savona is much cheaper.
Have you guys been to the new Village Cafe over next to Pairings?
No,
That's
that's
pretty
pretty cool. Is
They
it?
do Brooms Bloom by the Scoop, and then they do
I did.
find
That's
some
my grandmother told me to buy.
it's like a lot of like local market stuff, but then they also have a coffee, like a little coffee thing going on, and you can get like
Also,
certain cafe meals
he
together.
offered,
I love
if
that.
people have questions for him, he offered free sessions. Well, for each person, for 3 people, 1 free session, Dr. Caplan, you can do like a consultation to help you like determine what kind of cannabis you need, like what you should be focusing on more with cannabinoids instead of, you know,
I love that. I'm really
he's
excited to hear. you
really
talk.
cool. You're gonna love him.
What time's he coming in?
He should be coming on soon.
Yeah,
I'll get
I
another
told him
word.
6:10, so. There he is. Hi, I'm sitting here talking about you.
Yeah, no, the mic's on. I can hear. No worries.
Okay. Looks like he's super cool.
He's been silently listening.
All right, so I'm gonna read a little bio. So Dr. Benjamin Caplan, a distinguished figure in clinical cannabis medical care, combines over 2 decades of evidence-based medical practice with pioneering clinical research. As the co-founder and chief medical officer of CEP Clinic, CEP Foundation, EO Care Inc., Dr. Caplan is at the forefront of delivering exceptional patient care and spearheading the development of cutting-edge digital cannabis and education platforms. CEP Clinic, for example, is heralded as the pinnacle of medical cannabis care in the US, having greatly treated 18,000 patients and supervised the guidance and data collection of over 300,000 others globally. Recognized as one of the top 100 influencers in cannabis, Dr. Caplan's contributions encompass significant patient care advancements and the authorship of articles in esteemed journals such as the New England Journal of Medicine. His latest publication, the Doctor-Approved Cannabis Handbook, serves as a definitive guide on the evidence supporting effective cannabis therapies. Drawing from Dr. Caplan's extensive clinical experience and peer-reviewed research, the book renders complex information accessible to a broad audience. So Dr. Caplan is very, very accessible. That is a great way to end that because he makes this daunting education really easy for us all to understand, and we all need a copy of this book, but only one person's going to win it today. So anyway, let's move on to the questions. So in the simplest way possible, can you please explain what the endocannabinoid system is?
Of course. So yeah, I think the bio is a lot just to say I'm a good translator.
Yeah.
I listen to people well. I read well, and I can translate complex stuff into practically useful stuff. After 100 years of prohibition and a lot of misunderstandings over the years, we're living through this epic shift. You know, we have 9 countries now, 24 states, a bunch of territories, and the Australian Capital Territory, which I just learned is a new thing, have all legalized access to cannabis. So it's safe to say that cannabinoids have become part of everyday life. There's never going to be an official siren that goes off, but this is basically the call that we're all living through. You've almost all certainly heard of them in the context of medical marijuana and CBD oil, but what exactly are cannabinoids and why is it important for us to understand them? Cannabinoids are a unique group of compounds. You know, we know THC and CBD as the most recognized ones, but interestingly, those weren't even identified until 1964. But why should we care about these compounds? The answer lies in a remarkable system inside all of our bodies, whether or not you consume this plant, the endocannabinoid system, or ECS for short. Believe it or not, science and medicine didn't even know about the ECS until 1992 with Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You and Eric Clapton's Tears in Heaven playing on the radio. So this is super recent. So if you think about all those old doctors around, certainly the researchers around us, the plethora of medical understanding comes after, comes way before that. And this understanding of ECS comes way after. The ECS is a vast network of receptors and hormones spread throughout our bodies. It's involved in regulating almost every major function that our body produces, from how we feel pain to our mood to how well we sleep at night. It touches every cell and organ, influencing everything from our memory and temperature regulation to our sense of hunger, overall energy levels. On a granular level, the ECS can regulate how wide our arteries dilate or how tightly they constrict, how strongly hormones hit their targets, even how powerful nerve signals are transmitted from one part of our body to another. Of course, it also plays a role that we're all familiar with, the biological essence of happiness, joy, contentment, relaxation. Understanding cannabinoids is crucial because they interact directly with this extensive system. By engaging with the ECS, cannabinoids can help manage, potentially treat, a really wide variety of conditions, serious ones like seizures and cancers and dementia, things most people are aware of, but certainly more common ones like anxiety, stress, chronic pain, and sleep that, from one time or another, all of us go through. Consider this, most of us know someone who's grumpy all the time, cursing at the world, endlessly frustrated, and just a general bad news bear. But
Why
if
are
they
you talking
don't,
about in front of everybody.
well, it's all of us. I think we all know that kind of person.
Yeah.
But if they don't fit the description of someone who's clinically depressed, or there isn't a clear clinical explanation for this crankiness, guess what? Since 1992, we have a new way to understand them, which is a lower endocannabinoid tone. On the flip side, of course, we all know happy-go-lucky people and people who smile on rainy days and brighten up, any gloomy office. But we can also consider them now as having a high endocannabinoid tone. Their baseline levels of joyful, happy molecules are high, and they run around benefiting from a rich endocannabinoid system. So as you can hopefully already sense, the implications of this are profound. By deepening our understanding of cannabinoids and how they work on the ECS, we're opening new doors to medical treatments that are more natural, less invasive, potentially more effective than what we're all used to seeing at the pharmacy or even over-the-counter stuff. It would be like just finding everyday tools that are better, healthier, wiser. Some people are touting cannabinoids as being liquid exercise. I mean, in some cases, we're seeing metabolism increase because endocannabinoid is tied to your metabolism. And some people who have poor metabolisms might be better understood as having lower endocannabinoid tone. So it's a really fascinating. I mean, epic is a real word, and these days online it's used over more than it should. But this is really something amazing. We've never had a system that is so core and so widespread through our body be unearthed, and certainly not anything in our lifetimes.
Can you speak a little bit more to how autoimmune diseases are tied to the ECS?
Sure. So, there's an interesting theory. We have archaeological evidence that shows cannabinoids have existed alongside us for 12,000 years, really, as far as we have written evidence. And humans have always been consuming cannabis. And if we understand that endocannabinoids and cannabis are anti-inflammatory systems, they help suppress immunity, and we're always eating this product. If we go through a period of, say, about 100 years, let's say from 1930 to 2030, without cannabinoids in modern culture, then what we would expect are inflammatory systems to go through the roof because we're not suppressing them with this external plant. So what we've seen in the last 100 years is a proliferation of inflammatory conditions. Autoimmunity is inflammation. Inflammation is your immune system working. They're synonyms. So if people, if you look around, you see diabetes everywhere, which is the body's immune system fighting its own pancreatic islet cells. You see skin conditions like vitiligo, where the body's attacking its own melanin. You see Graves' disease. So there are very, very many conditions where the immune system is so hyperactive that it's attacking its own. And the solution for those is immunosuppressants, things that suppress the immune system. And cannabis is one of them. But of course, most people are familiar with more pharmaceutical choices. But if you think through a public health sort of historical lens, it tells a very different picture that, oh, wait a minute, this is also the period of time when people haven't been consuming much cannabis because we've all been led to believe this was evil.
So you mentioned earlier how some people may be seeing an increase in metabolism or regulated metabolism because of cannabinoids. So can we talk specifically about cannabinoids like THCV, for
Yes,
example,
that's
which
my favorite.
is touted as, you know, quote unquote diet weed.
Weed.
And how that, like, how we really need to understand how these cannabinoids work when we're medicating.
Sure. So there's layers of questions there, and complexity
Yeah.
because we're all no, and not that you intend, I think, or maybe you did, but we're all limited by the product producers out there. You know, if they're trying to make money, which most of them are, they pick stuff which tastes good or which looks good or smells good. They're not picking stuff because, oh, the studies show that this cannabinoid hits receptors on your pancreas and stimulates insulin production. They don't even know that. And it's shocking to think how rare it is for people to know anything about cannabis. I mean, it seems like it's such a big deal. And it's actually, the estimates are $16 billion today, which is the equivalent of the entire aesthetics industry, both surgical and non-surgical. It's the equivalent of the entire mobile telehealth industry. Cannabis right now. It's if cannabis were a pharmaceutical, it would be the number 2 most prescribed pharmaceutical in the world. So it's massively prevalent, and there's just ignorance everywhere. To your question, THCV is one of the components that this plant produces. We know about THC. Most of us know about CBD. Those are 2 drops in a bucket that basically contains over 1,000 different molecules. So this plant is a freak pharmacy, natural freak pharmacy that's producing all of these natural compounds, many of which bind and do stuff in our body, but we don't know what they do. We don't even have a complete list of them. That's how basic this sort of level of science is right now. We do know about THCV, and THCV hits what are called TRPV1 receptors on our pancreas. There's nothing all that magical about that fact. THC does too, but the shape of THCV doesn't hit receptors in our brain to make people feel high as much. It does a little bit, about 25%. So it's more like a diet high. But it hits these receptors in our pancreas, and it hits receptors in other cells throughout our body. And the result of that action is people who are insulin dependent need less insulin. People who have high sugars see their sugars drop. Patients I've seen and watched over 5 or 6 years now are getting off of insulin because they're on regimens that are dominating by THCV. That is absolutely dramatic and amazing, and just completely beyond where the medical industry is right now. They're completely unaware of this.
I'm gonna get my husband to do that. My husband's on insulin, but he's retired police, and all he's got in his mind is dope, dope, dope. Right? So no matter how many times I'll try to get him to, but you know, he's old, he's set in his ways, and
Yeah.
I would love to see him get off the insulin and take, because I do this THCV, but you
Yeah.
know, that would be great to help him.
Yeah, wow.
So can you tell us a little bit about how your book, speaking to that, maybe could help him, how
Sure.
your book can help someone who wants to be more intentional about their consumption?
Sure. First of all, you should all know that I am not making money from this book, unfortunately. My mission, the reason I left my role as a primary care doc at one of the Boston's finest medical centers, is to share what I've learned about medical cannabis care and the specific products and routines that have helped my patients succeed. So this is really a mission-driven thing for me. I'm telling you about the medical industry, sort of the status that I see, and it's mind-blowing to me that this isn't out there. That was the whole reason for writing this book. The Doctor-Approved Cannabis Handbook shares an educational foundation, so sort of the stuff I'm talking about, but there's much more to discuss, and practical applications. In the first half, it explains the basic science of cannabis, including cannabinoids and terpenes. It gives you dosage guidelines, detailed instructions on how to determine and adjust dosages, and it gives you realistic outcomes. I've seen, as you quoted before, close to 300,000 patients and how they do over time. So I can set clear expectations on what cannabis can and won't do. In the second half of the book, you get practical applications. Just about everyone wants to get better at product selection. Product producers sell all of these cannabis things out there. But most people throw spaghetti on the wall and hope something sticks. They ask the guy or girl behind the counter what they find helpful or what they hear about. And this is not a way to approach medicine. If you're serious about approaching this as a treatment for sleep or for stress or for pain, there's a method to the madness. Targeted effects is the new leveling up of cannabis consumption. This handbook teaches you how to select specific strains, specific products to achieve the effects you're looking for. Especially, we're all changing. As your needs change, the products out there change. It's a moving target. So really empowering people with knowledge is what makes you the master of your fate, even if you change, even if the products change. So the book is a big deal. I mean, I wrote it because I didn't see the stuff anywhere, and I read like an animal. One of my claims to fame is I've built the world's largest library of cannabis publications. I just started hoarding everything I could find into one Google Drive that everybody can now read for free. You can search within the different documents. It's a really beautiful, simple thing. And obviously it's free, but I read like an animal. And what I didn't read was the stuff in between the lines. And that's what this book is. It's sort of the Bible of what's missing from most of what's out there.
Yeah. Now we have a question.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm curious what your thoughts are for use of consumption with somebody who's been diagnosed bipolar, right? Because the first doctor that was my prescriber told me absolutely not, because you're already kind of going into that psychoactive space, right? Like, is it really a good idea to go there? So I'm curious, maybe she's just not as informed. Are there certain strains, right?
I would bet you she has a really boring social life. I mean, could you imagine not having psychoactivity in your life, whether or not you have other pharmaceuticals or other plants? If you're just sitting in front of a screen doing nothing, I guess that's a non-psychoactive. Psychoactivity is part of living. So someone who's bipolar, if they have cycles of feeling manic or they feeling depressed, some of that is normal for all humans. The sort of bell curve shifts when you have bipolar disorder. That means you experience those highs and lows much more readily than your average Jane or Joe, but all of us experience those things. And to make an argument that because there is psychoactivity, then other psychoactive substances wouldn't be appropriate, I think misses the point completely. I mean, all of psychiatric medicine impacts psychoactivity. So that argument would apply to all medicines that impact anything. Even Tylenol and ibuprofen impact the way that we feel emotionally.
Right.
So,
Right, because CBD,
yeah.
not to cut you off, but
No.
I get this a lot because when I write about CBD, editors will write in there that it's non-psychoactive, and I have to correct them because technically it is psychoactive.
Yeah,
It makes you
of
feel
course.
better,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. Lemon juice.
think
I mean, anything is
realize
psychoactive,
It's
right?
non-inebriating or something like
Right.
it wouldn't make you high, or use a different word for high, but it's psychoactive doesn't mean high either, right?
I guess
Right.
that euphoric state is probably what she was like when I'm in a manic state, right, I might potentially go into a state of euphoria.
Mhm.
And what she was trying to suggest is that by using this, right, I might, I guess, trigger the mania. I don't know if I'm
Sure. No, I
understanding.
mean, I get it. It comes from a like a sketchy, like uncertain place. Like if you really love Sudoku puzzles, is she going to tell you not to do those puzzles because they might trip you into a, right? Like, no, you do something in a controlled way. If you go nuts with Sudoku puzzles, she might say, wait a minute, maybe do half a puzzle at a time, take a break. Just like
Right.
with cannabis, we're going to give you a regimen, which is not get shit-faced all the time and go nuts. Right? Like
Right.
we have a sense of regulation and organization and meter dosing. You know, cannabis is not like traditional pharmaceuticals where the entire medical industry has the idea that we can paint with a broad brush and one pill is going to cure depression. I mean, obviously that's ludicrous and we all figure that out. But that's not, I mean, it is laid out that way. Like these FDA approvals are this treats depression, no matter who you are, no matter what you're going through. And it's a bad system. It's just a huge broad paintbrush that doesn't work for everybody. So to bring it down to earth, what I'm getting at, I have hundreds of patients with bipolar, who do fabulously. They need to know what is going to push them into a place that they don't want to be. They need to know what is an option for nighttime, what's an option that's different for daytime or the weekends. You have to learn about kind of what this stuff does in general, what it does for you. And you make a practical routine. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just knowledge.
And you can help with that, right? Because, I mean, and that would be why understanding cannabinoids is so important because
Right.
perhaps you might need something that might be like THCA focused more so, or
Right.
something like that, like balancing that. It is a lot of trial and error, but I feel like it's better than the alternative, you know? So, does anyone else have any other questions?
No. Informative, I like this.
I feel like Jen would have a question for you, though. She just.
Oh, Jen did have some.
Oh, I mean, I could keep going down the rabbit hole.
Go down the rabbit hole. Ask another question. Do you have a couple more minutes, Dr. Caplan?
Yeah, I got a couple more minutes.
All right, do you want to?
Well, Jen's got a question.
Well, I have one really quickly that you and I talk about all the time. How can someone talk to their doctor who is uninformed about other, I know we want to bring in your book and tell them to read it, but.
Or
as we
smack
know,
them
that's
over the
not-
head with it, right?
Yeah, it's not always possible, so.
Right.
How do we start the conversation with our doctor who's not?
I think it's very common for doctors to forget that they are there to serve you, that they're there to be translators. They are there to know what is published and accepted literature and to apply it to what your needs are. The goal of any medical visit is success, but it's the patient's success. And I think if there's hesitation, if the doctor might be an old school kind of doctor, I think starting the conversation with, something that seems really strange, but say, look, I want to remind you, I want you to give me advice that works for me. And I'm interested in cannabis. I'm not interested in your opinion of it. I'm interested in your knowledge about the literature and translating that for what you know about me and my body. And I think it's probably okay to tell them, look, if you're uncomfortable, that's okay. Either you don't want to have that conversation with them, or you could say, look, if you don't know about it, that's okay. But I want you to be honest with me. And I think if you give them that out, and if you make it clear that their job is to help you, that should change the story. If it doesn't, maybe they're not the doctor for you, because that's a bad sign.
I just know most of my medical doctors, if I suggest that, of course, my family doctor was like, you want a card? I'll write you a card, so he was really cool. He's But, most of them, even the vet, when I even went to the vet about CBD for the dogs,
Mhm.
they were kind enough to say, I don't know enough about it to give you any information. So that's even with the medical doctors that I've run into.
Mhm.
So they just say they don't know enough
Yeah.
to direct me if that, now I can just say from my experience, I have Crohn's. And my Crohn's was so bad when they first found it that my gastroenterologist actually thought I had cancer.
Mm.
And the last 3 checkups I had, I was getting better, but I started doing the cannabis. My last exam or my last colonoscopy, I was 100% clean. And,
Yeah.
I had precancerous polyps. I had the inflammation so bad, like I said, he thought it was like eating my insides out. And yeah, and I am clean now.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. I was sort of waiting for that because that's what I see day in and day out. And that's, there's a chapter in the book which is all about gastrological concerns, chapter 12. And I've seen it, it's so dramatic, where people who have ulcerative colitis or Crohn's have no more flares. And
Yeah,
it's
same situation. Same
it's
thing.
My
amazing, right?
flares have stopped. Yep.
Right.
Like
So,
my doctor didn't even want to
mm.
do it. He didn't even want to like come out and talk to me after the colonoscopy
Yeah.
because he was so dead set that it wasn't helping.
Right.
He even said he was going to put me on biologics after this, and I was like,
Yep.
I'm not going on biologics. And he said, it works better than your
No, it doesn't work
whatever you're
better.
using to get high. And I said, all right, whatever. And I did the colonoscopy, but it was completely clear.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't even come out and talk to me. He sent the nurse out.
We don't
so I
take
had
it
to
to
go
get
in.
high. We take it to fix us.
Yeah.
How about that?
exactly.
Right. Right. No, and it's a very uphill battle. I mean, this morning, CNN put out this article by a woman who's on a track record against cannabis. And in that article, this woman posts like a litany of clips and pulls and pullouts of quotes from the JAMA article recently about heart health. And she even pulled together one of Dr. Grinspoon's quotes about teen use of cannabis. And it was like a litany of bullshit when you put it together. Because she eliminated